his one-man show, The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, Mike Daisey is showing audiences the darker side of technology. We're at the Public Theater to see what it's all about.
In my first 2 hours of my first day at that gate, I met workers who were 14 years old. I met workers who were 13 years old. I met workers who were 12. Do you really think Apple doesn't know?
Give us a quick rundown, if you could. What is The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs all about?
Well, it's about two things primarily. It's about these beautiful objects that we have in our pockets and that we carry around with us and that we use every day, and about how they became such a huge part of our lives and the man who really brought them into our lives. And then it's also about the circumstances under which they are made. And Mike goes actually to China to investigate the factories and the lives of the workers who create these products.
What was the spark for this show? What first struck your imagination and made you want to create this piece?
I saw these pictures that had been taken by an iPhone in a factory that had managed to make it out to the public, pictures taken from the inside of the factory, and seeing those pictures caused me to start thinking about the fact that I didn't know where my devices came from really, and I realized I need to go to China to actually see firsthand how they're made.
The immediate appeal wasn't as clear to me at first, but then once Mike really started to unpack, how these things kind of crept into our lives, they started just to fire on so many levels for me. All of that has really illuminated a lot of things and areas that I didn't think deeply about before.
You mentioned you have a lot of wonderful encounters in China, very interesting people. Do you have any moments in particular that stay with you?
Meeting people who had been injured working on the line building devices, meeting people who'd been exposed to chemicals that had caused neurological damage, and the only reason they were exposed to those chemicals was so that they could make iPhones even faster. And I think a lot of my work is trying to connect us to where our manufacturing is in a human way.
What is the secret to structuring a show that engages audiences with one man on stage for 2 hours?
Certainly with Mike's shows, what I think is so why we can hang on and go for the whole time and listen to one voice talking is that he is able to layer the comedy right next to the tragedy, and they go back and forth between these incredibly funny things to these incredibly touching and difficult things.
Audiences are always afraid that they're going to hear some terrible story that they can't bear to hear. We make the show very, very funny because in part we need to laugh, because if you leave the show consumed by guilt, it's not helpful. You need people instead to feel like they can engage, to feel like they can be open to making a difference.
I've spent a lifetime in theater, and I think it's wonderful to know that theater actually can make a difference, that it actually does matter, that we're actually reach beyond the walls and out into things that are happening in the world. And I do believe that this piece has really helped to bring those things into the forefront.
The truth is that being aware of the problem, knowing that there's a problem, understanding the ramifications of it and the human face of it, and then telling other people, that's work. You don't have to sign a petition. You don't have to even boycott and throw all your devices into the sea. If you start waking up and being aware of your decisions and their consequences and telling other people about that, that is activism.